For the book report to go through, I'm going to give you guys the speedy version as best I can. First off, the due date. The official due date for it is Wednesday, October 9th. It is, I think, 6 weeks from yesterday, which gives you roughly 5.5 weeks to put off doing it, and 3 days has been crying in the basement. Unless you guys actually begin working sooner than that, but let's be honest. And I'll wish you guys luck. So, by the way, if you don't write down the due date, that's absolutely fine. But if you come back and ask me later when it's due, your answer is always going to be next Monday. Regardless of what week it is, that's going to be my answer. And then we'll see what happens from that point. It's due next Monday. What?
Well, if it's Monday that you said it's next Monday.
Right, so it'll be due next Monday.
Okay.
Fun game. And from there, we talked about the books, I think, with you guys, at least tapped into that yesterday. Your goal is that I should have checked off your book by the end of the class period today. Worst case scenario, by tomorrow, because I'm sure some of you forgot your books at home because you're special wee lads and lasses, and you're like, I don't have my book, bring it tomorrow. I have to see the book for it to count. If you come up and tell me, I know a book I'm reading, I'll say, that's fascinating, stop bragging. Until I see the book, it does you absolutely no good. Knight, did you just stab yourself?
Yeah, I did, I'm sorry.
Embarrassing.
But, will we have time to do the collage in class, or is that all at home?
Part of it, probably like a day or two, but not a ton. A lot of it will be at home.
No.
Do you need a Band-Aid?
No.
Good, because I can't get you one. Other than that, we'll go through and give you guys time in the library here in a little bit to run through the actual book report. On the green sheet, you have the side that has all the squares on it and the side that has all the words on it. The square side that you wrote your name on, that's mostly just to show you how I'm going to grade it. The word side, that on the other one, that's going to be all the directions. I don't have time to go through all those directions. And goodness gracious, look at all those words on there. It make me pass out. You're going to have to actually read most of those on your own. I'll give you a quick overview of what you're going to do. What you're going to end up doing for the project is you're going to be creating a collage poster thing, something along the lines of this. Very similar to what you did for the Small World thing, where you did your face and just 5 pictures. Except now instead of 5, it's a whole bunch of pictures. And instead of about you, it's about a character in the book. So you're going to have to pick one character from the book you're reading, which means the book you're reading has to actually have characters in it. So you can't do a non-fiction book like a computer manual. As fascinating as it might be, there aren't any characters in it. But there's a hard drive. That's fascinating. Still not going to do anything good. So you have to have characters throughout the whole thing. Pick one, and all these pictures are going to connect to that character in some way. So I'll figure out if you have a picture of a hot pepper on there, it's because they cook a chili that has really hot peppers in it, and it makes everyone get sick at school, and I hate them and try to beat them up. So there's something like that as it goes through and connects. That is a picture of some weird granny woman with an apple who apparently doesn't like Snow White. Then I'll find out that apparently they keep having issues with cooking, and everyone thinks their food is poisonous, and they compare her to the... And so I'm going to find out from these pictures stuff from your book, and that will all connect. Mr. Broviak, how are you going to find out that stuff if all it is a bunch of pictures? Wazam! The other half of your project is you're going to have to write out a little thing where you explain all of those pictures. Each picture has an explanation that goes along with it. How long is the explanation? 2 to 3 sentences. Just enough to give me some idea. I mean, if you have something on there where it's a little girl who looks afraid, don't put, number 35, she's a girl. No, that'd be bad. But you can explain to me that she's afraid and everyone keeps making fun of her, so she goes home at night and cries in her basement and stuff like that. Then that gives me much more information. So I'm just looking for 2 to 3 sentences, give me some idea of what's all occurring, what's going on in there. That's what I'm looking for as you go through and do the project. Mr. Broviak, how many pictures do we have to have? That's a wonderful question. Watch this magical thing called Direction 17. And you can take a look on there and it tells you exactly how many you have to have. Other than that, I'll run through some quick examples for the past projects to give you ideas of the goods and the bads and the uglies and the others. As an example, here would be a good project. What they did is you have to number all of your pictures so that I can figure out in your report what picture goes with what entry. And so what they did, these little circles as the numbering system, they use those little garage sale tags, stuff like that, and they just put those little circles all over it. Looks like it broke out, a bad case of book report measles, but it's just the little dots on there, and so you can do something like that. For the report, it would then match up, and I'd be able to find the little dots and figure out what number it is, and then be able to read on there exactly what it says. Next up, if you look back on this one, some of the pictures, well, most of the pictures are going to come from magazines or from the internet or something like that when you're looking things up. Every once in a while you're going to have a word that you want to put on there, but you can't find it in the magazine. That might make you frustrated. Like if you're wanting to do Hunger Games and you can't find the word Mockingjay, but you want to put it on there, you can type it up, and then print it up so it looks all special and pretty, and that's fine with me. But you can only do that 3 times. You're limited to doing that 3 times per project. Every time after that, it's going to end up costing you points. So keep that in mind. This one, instead of typing it up, to make it look all fancy, they use those puffy letters. That was fine. Still counts as just typing out a word, but they use puffy letters to show their creativity. Creativity, I'm absolutely fine with. The reason you're limited to only doing it 3 times, and you'll see it later on, is because 1, it starts looking really ugly if you type up all your words. It looks like you didn't do anything at the last minute. And 2, it's because you only do that when you wait till the last minute. And so because that ends up coming back to haunt you. This one is perfectly fine, even though there are a whole bunch of words on there. What's the difference? These words are cut out of a magazine. If you cut words out of a magazine, you're unlimited. You can do as many of those as you want. Mr. Broviak, what's the difference with both words? The difference is cutting words out of a magazine requires work. You have to actually look through a magazine, find the words, show some kind of cognitive action, you're problem solving, trying to think things through. If you're just typing stuff into the computer and printing those words off, all that does is show it your way into the last minute to type things up. So this, I'm fine with. You can cut out as many words as you want. Just like you can also hold your hand up until I get done, then I'll answer all your questions, so I'll just go ahead and write it down and save yourself the effort. If you don't want to type it up, you're more than welcome to handwrite it. That's fine with me. Pen, don't use pencil. Blue or black ink has to look all official and fancy. Do not handwrite it if your handwriting is atrocious. Every year I have a kid that writes it out by hand, and I fail them and make them do it over again because they write it in their own special language. If I can't read it, I'm not going to struggle and push myself. It's up to you to make it easy for me. If I look at it and go, maybe, no. Me, it's just like, wrong, wrong, squint, wrong. And so if you don't want that, write it in a language I can read. If you have bad handwriting, I don't recommend that option for you. But that's up to you. Some kids are just rebellious. On that one, I have issues with blank space. It's one of the rules on there. I think it's like rule number 7 or something right around there. I'm just picking that number. I could be wrong. I'll freak out. But it says something about blank space, where I don't want empty space on the poster. You have to fill the entire poster. That goes back to your problem solving, being able to work your way through it. So any blank space like that ends up counting against you. You have to fill the entire poster. Examples of bad ones, this. If your book was made into a book, if your book was made into a movie, I have no problem with that. There's lots of great books that are made into movies. If it was something that was aimed at junior high, I've read the book and I've seen the movie both, and that's fine with me. I know them, I'll know the differences. Even the Twilight ones, I read those after the movies. And so that's absolutely fine with me. The difference is you can't use pictures from the movie. So if a movie was made from it, you can't just go to twilight.com, printy, 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 Team Jacob, Team Jacob, Team Jacob. You're out of luck. You have to actually go through there and find other pictures of werewolves and vampires. I'm pretty sure they exist. The reason being is that I have kids who are lazy, and they'll read like a Hunger Games book. And they'll just go to hungergames.com and then just go print, 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 print. 4 minutes, done, and then just stick them all on there. That doesn't require work or thinking, so that's why you can't do it. So you have to find things that aren't from your actual movie. You can't color random pictures and put them on there. As you can tell here, they started the project, and this was probably 2 nights before, and then that took them like, oh my goodness, like an hour to get done. They got like, oh, it's so tiring, I'm just going to use random pieces of paper. That'd be bad. So stuff like that, you turn this in, you pretty much know you're failing when you give it to me. Same thing, I don't know what to tell you. This one looks pretty, still failing. Why is this one failing? More than 3 words were typed up, so that definitely counted against them for part of it. And Reby?
They use pictures from the movie.
There you go. I have no problem reading Star Wars books. There's tons of expanded universe stuff out there. The problem is they just went to StarWars.com, and they're like, well, how am I supposed to find a picture of an X-Wing? Put a picture of an airplane on there and go zoom, zoom. It's an airplane, it's a spaceship. And I'll use my imagination, and it works out just fine. And so that's what I'm looking for. And then, some stuff like that, that's why you can't just type up words. Obviously, now, they did work really hard. They got a tiger and a bicycle before they gave up. And then they just typed up all the rest of the words the night before. Really? Now, the one thing I put this one on there for is the big beer bottle in the middle of it. You guys are older people now. You might be reading big kid books. And in big kid books, there's things like drugs and alcohol and poor choices. That's okay. I mean, with me, if your parents freak out, then no, bad kid, bad. But it's going to happen in life. If it happens in your book, you can put it on the poster. That's fine with me. If one of your characters makes poor choices and gets drunk at a party and all of that comes back to repercussions, you can put that on there. I don't want you going out and experimenting with it yourself. That'd be wrong. But you're more than welcome to put the pictures on there as long as they connect to it. Now, don't put a picture of a gun on there just because you really like guns, yo. That'd be bad. But as long as it's connecting to your book in some way, then I'm fine with it. Because I have kids who freak out every year. They're like, but it's in my book. It's in your book. It's fine. I'm okay with it. Now, if you have questions, you're out of luck. You have to wait till the end. Because we're going to head over to the library, and then you guys can ask me questions. That's why I told you to make sure you write them down, because to make sure we have enough time to get you guys a chance to choose books. And while we're over there, all the stuff I have to tell you, I don't have time to answer your questions because you guys are all smart. You're going to have tons of questions, and you're going to start babbling and wandering on. So you're going to be out of luck there. When we head over to the library, a couple things. One, take everything with you. I'll dismiss you from the library when we get there. You won't be coming back in here unless you leave something here and I get to make fun of you. Take everything with you when you get there. Not done talking yet. Oh, what? Taking off your points? I know. I feel the same way. When we go over there, there are tables with 4 chairs. When we're over there, no more than 4 people per table. You can't drag over other chairs and do like groups of 5 seats, 6 seats, 12 seats. No, it's 4 and that's it. You just, if you have more than 4 people in your wonderful little group, split it up. You'll figure it out. Also, the chairs tip back really easily. Don't do it because it makes the librarians mad, and then they have to yell at me, and I have to yell at you. So if I see you tipping a chair, I just take your chair away, and you have to stand the rest of the time that we're in the library. So don't tip back. And the worst part is the chairs are really tippable. They're nice old wooden chairs, like little curved advisors. So all you do like, oh, and it just goes back perfectly. Really tempting. It's awful and evil, I know. But don't do it. It'll make you sad. Then they're going to give you guys time to check out a book. If you want a book, then that's fine. If you have your book with you, at the end, come show it to me so that I can write you down. If I don't see your book, it does not exist. I have to actually see the book in your hands for it to count. They're going to tell you that there's chairs over near the checkout area. You can't sit in those unless you have 50 B points. Once you get to 50 B points, those chairs are available to you. There's also loft areas that I talked about. You can go in the loft once you have 100 B points. None of y'all's have 100 B points, so none of y'all's are going up in the loft. You'll be sitting down there in the chairs, and you'll be fine and good to go from there. If you want one of my books, come see me before we go to the library. If you know you want one over here, come see me prior to going that way, and then we'll be good to go. Other than that, girls, you get to go first.
Yay!